You've heard it before. Maybe in school. Maybe in a news segment. Maybe in an argument online. Islam spread by the sword. It sounds like history. It gets repeated like history. But today, we're going to actually look at history. And I promise you, what you're about to hear is more interesting than the myth. My name is Mohamed. I'm an Islamic instructor and scholar. And this is Path to Islam, where we answer the real questions with real answers. Let's get into it. Section 1. The Indonesia Problem. Let's start with one simple fact that breaks the sword myth completely. Indonesia. Indonesia is the largest Muslim-majority country in the world. Over 230 million Muslims. More Muslims than in all of the Arab world combined. Now, which Muslim army conquered Indonesia? None. There was no conquest of Indonesia, ever. Islam arrived in Indonesia through merchants, traders from Yemen and India who sailed into the ports of Aceh, Java, and Malacca. They brought goods. They brought faith. They had conversations. Local rulers met them, engaged with Islam, and over generations, entire communities chose to embrace it. No army, no force, no swords. If Islam truly spread by the sword, Indonesia simply does not exist the way it does today. But it does exist. And that alone should make us question the whole narrative. Section 2. West Africa and China. Let's keep going. West Africa. Countries like Mali, Senegal, Guinea, and northern Nigeria have massive Muslim populations today. How did Islam get there? Trade routes, scholars, teachers. Trans-Saharan merchants carried Islamic knowledge and practice across the desert into the heart of Africa. Muslim scholars established schools. Local kings, including the legendary Mansa Musa of the Mali Empire, embraced Islam after engaging with Muslim thought. And the faith took root. No armies marched through the Sahara, converting people at sword point. Now, China. Muslims have lived in China for over 1,300 years. During the Tang dynasty, Arab and Persian traders traveled the Silk Road into Chinese cities. They settled. They married into local communities. They built mosques. The Hui people, one of China's recognized ethnic groups, are the descendants of these traders. Again, no conquest, no forced conversion, just people, trade, and a message that resonated. 3 of the largest and oldest Muslim populations in the world, and not one of them produced by military force. Section 3. The conquest areas. What really happened? Now, I'm going to be honest with you, because honesty is the only way to have this conversation. Yes, Muslim armies did conquer territory. Persia, Egypt, parts of the Byzantine Empire, Spain. This is historical fact. I'm not going to hide it or explain it away. But here's what people miss. Military conquest and religious conversion are not the same thing. Take Egypt. Muslim forces took control of Egypt in 641 CE. That's a documented fact. But here's another documented fact. Egypt did not become a Muslim-majority country until the 10th century. That's over 300 years after the conquest. Think about that. If Islam was forced on people at the point of a sword, why did it take 300 years? Because it wasn't forced. What happened in Egypt over those 3 centuries is exactly what happened across the Muslim world wherever there was sustained governance. Non-Muslims lived under Islamic rule. They kept their churches. They kept their synagogues. They had legal protection under Islamic law. And over time, through living alongside Muslims, through trade, through scholarship, through witnessing the ethics of their neighbors, many of them chose Islam. That's not a sword. That's a civilization. Section 4. The Quran on compulsion. Let me read you something. Quran, chapter 2, verse 256. There is no compulsion in religion. Truth stands clear from falsehood. 4 words. No compulsion in religion. This isn't a small verse tucked away somewhere. This is one of the most central statements in all of Islamic theology. Forced conversion is not just discouraged, it is theologically invalid. A conversion that happens under threat means nothing in Islamic understanding. The goal was never to force a person's body into submission. The goal was always to invite a person's mind and heart to truth, and Islamic law built on that foundation. Non-Muslims living under Muslim governance had protected status, known as dhimmis. They paid a specific tax. They were exempt from military service, and they kept their religious institutions. Were things always perfect? No. History is messy. But the framework was one of coexistence, not extermination. Section 5. Where the myth came from. So if the evidence doesn't support the sword myth, where did it come from? Two main places. First, Crusader-era propaganda. When European Christian forces were launching military campaigns into Muslim-held lands in the 11th and 12th centuries, framing Islam as a violent, forced religion was politically useful. It made the Crusades feel justified. That image got embedded in European cultural memory. Second, the colonial era. When European powers were colonizing Muslim-majority regions in the 18th and 19th centuries, they needed a story. We are bringing civilization to violent, backward people. The sword myth served that story perfectly. Neither of those sources was interested in accurate history. Both had political reasons to distort the record, and that distortion is still circulating today, in textbooks, in media, in social media arguments, long after the political context that created it has disappeared. Here's what I want you to take away from this. The real story of how Islam spread is not a story of armies and forced conversions. It's a story of merchants crossing oceans, scholars crossing deserts, ordinary people having honest conversations, and a message, a simple, clear, powerful message that resonated with human beings across every culture it touched. That message is still reaching people today. If you're curious about Islam, if you've been carrying questions that you haven't known how to ask, I want you to know, this channel is a space for those questions. Ask them. We'll answer them honestly. Like this video if it opened your eyes. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And share this with one person who's been told the myth. I'm Mohamed. This is Path to Islam. And I'll see you in the next one.